Well, people have been asking me for a little bit now, fairly persistently. Have I seen this? Will I review it? What are my thoughts on it? Okay, then. Let's do some f***ery. Our flag means death. The HBO Max, or at least that's how I saw it here. I don't know what it's streaming on elsewhere in the world, but in the US at least, it's on HBO Max. And it is a pirate period comedy. Now, I did actually try and start watching this, not right when it started, but like before it was finished. And I wasn't enthused. It was fine, but basically the first two, almost the first three episodes, have all the stuff about the show that I like the least. Not stuff that's bad, but stuff that is very much not to my taste. And so I wasn't in a rush to catch up with it. Now, that's not me saying the first two episodes are like a slog that you have to power your way through or anything like that. Rather, I'm just saying that like the first two episodes lent a little bit too much for me on cringe humor. Now, cringe kind of runs through the lifeline of this thing, but like there is a difference to me between Steed getting excited about a treasure hunt later on and just the fact that he thinks everything's going fine on the ship, but the crew, who do acknowledge he's kind of a nice guy, are still planning to mutiny him. And the emphasis on just how bad he's cut out to be a pirate. They hit that note a little too hard in those first two episodes for me. And I didn't find him excessively endearing beyond the setup, the initial joke of this guy clearly wants to be a pirate. He's probably the last person who should be, though. But honestly, what makes it work is when Blackbeard shows up, or Ed, as I will call him from here on out, because it's what the show generally calls him. And Taika Waititi is great as that. Like, I should be clear, all the performances are good, but some kind of made me really want more in a way that others didn't, or some kind of needed each other. I think Ed and Steed, they needed each other. And I don't just mean the characters narratively. I mean, as a dynamic, they work really well together. And I was surprisingly well sold on this idea that Blackbeard, he just is the best pirate. He is, and he has been for ages, and he's kind of bored. And he kind of needed to see it through new eyes of someone who has this ridiculous over-romanticized notion of it, to see the fun in it again and to come at it from a completely different angle than he ever has before. I like that approach, and I really like their relationship. And I like that beard on him, too. Should give a spoiler warning. I am going to be talking about stuff that goes on later. So I'll just say up front now before I get there. It's good. It got better, and I was quite engaged with it. I have slightly mixed feelings on the ending. Not so much the direction the story goes, but rather the point at which it chooses to stop. Especially at this point, given that a second season has yet to be confirmed. If this ends up actually being how the show ends, it might disincline me to rewatch it again. Again, not because it's terrible, but just because it's kind of a note. Or at least I found it to be. So that's your as close to spoiler-free as I'm going to get thing on it. And I'm just going to talk pretty freely about it. Like I said, I'm not sure there was any one single character who was like, oh, they're the best. A lot of it was character dynamics. I loved Ed and Steed. I loved Jim and Oluwande. I thought they were great. Like, there's just a lot of good pairings. And even sometimes characters who, like, are the odd one out, like, say, Izzy Hands frequently was. That's still a dynamic that he has with the other characters that works. Guest cast was pretty good, even from actors who I don't always care for, like Fred Armisen. I actually almost never like him. I didn't mind him here. I didn't love him, but he didn't bother me. And he normally does. I don't even know what it is. Just something about him. I'm like, hey, you're not funny. But he was fine here. He worked pretty well. Leslie Jones, I can be very up and down on. I like her sometimes, but it's a crapshoot. I liked her here. Rory Kinnear, he was great. And what was really surprising, because, I don't do this with everything, but I did with this. After the first, I think, 2 episodes, I did check Stede Bonnet's Wikipedia page. Show is shockingly historically accurate. Like, not to the point where you could call this the real story, but I mean, a shocking number of plot points. I was like, oh, that basically did happen. The fact that he left his family. The fact that he met up with Blackbeard. The fact that he got stabbed and injured on a Spanish ship. That actually happened. Him getting, a reprieve or a forgiveness from the king in exchange for service, and then leaving again to go out and just become a pirate again. That actually happened. I was surprised because, like I said, I kind of glanced over his Wikipedia after seeing like the first or second episode, and then things that I'd read on there kept showing up in the episodes. I was like, oh, well, that's neat. I like it. So that was kind of a cool little touch. I'm a sucker for pirates in general. I've talked about that. And I suppose I should talk about the thing that, like, everyone's going to expect of me because, I'm me. But yeah, the show's pretty gay. And I like it. I like that Jim, after being discovered as a woman, prefers to still be called Jim. And I didn't pay enough attention to catch if it clicked like right off, but I definitely heard they them pronouns being used to refer to Jim. Obviously there is Ed and Steed. There's Lucius and I forget the other guy's name. The guy who was bald. Surprisingly endearing, surprisingly cute. Yeah. I liked that these were sweet relationships. They were just nice. These are just pleasant, enjoyable relationships. And in the case of Ed and Steed, watching it grow, watching that connection deepen over time was just nice. They brought out the best in each other. Which then brings us to the ending and why I'm kind of mixed on it. Because what the ending does is it pulls the two of them apart, at which point Steed goes back home, realizes how much happier his wife was thinking he was dead, which that was well done. I actually especially like the way they kind of left things off where she's about to kill him and he wakes up. He's like, "You were going to stab me in the ear." And then they like just kind of have a pleasant, what now that they realize that this marriage is toast, like they can't try and keep being married, they just have a very plain and open conversation about what each of them wants for their life. I like that. I loved that a lot. But he's pining for the life he just gave up. That's what he's doing. Meanwhile, Ed, once he's no longer with Steed, does something that some people do when what they believe and what might even be the best thing that ever happened to them, especially if it's a relationship, comes to an unexpected and undesired end, which is that he initially mopes and then becomes self-destructive and effectively just leans into being the worst possible version of himself. And I actually think that's a pretty decent plot turn. It makes sense. It is, an exaggerated, stylized version of something that happens in life. I've seen it happen. But it's a very odd note to end on. Especially considering that, at least as things stand, unless we get new episodes, he killed Lucius, which I don't know if I was supposed to find him throwing him overboard funny. I hope not, because, you know, you hear Lucius screaming for help in the water. Now, there's the standard TV rule, no body, no death. So presumably he could pop back up, but only if we get another season. And if we don't, that moment's just left sitting there. And I don't like it. It's not wrong. It absolutely makes the point that Blackbeard is truly leaning into his worst possible self, because he hasn't killed anyone in a very, 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 very long time, even from before he met Steed. So I get it as a story beat, but it just left me in a weird way. And I had the same kind of weird feeling that I got when, like, the Warriors 3 were so casually killed off in Thor Ragnarok. There's just something that sits badly with me when that happens. And I'm not going to say it's necessarily a bad or incorrect or wrong thing to do. It just never sits right for me. So, yeah, that moment felt off. And again, just sort of ending on a note of, I mean, presumably Steve's going to find him again, but I'll probably feel better about this ending if we get a second season, which I hope we do, because I was really liking the show by the time it ended. But if we don't, I don't have any, like, specific highlight moments to shout out. It was just nice. It was just pleasant. And it was very gay. We need more gay pirate stuff. Seriously. But our flag means death. What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. Patreon's how I pay the bills so that I don't have to resort to piracy. At least not that kind. No, I don't pirate. But even if you can't help me out there, like, share, subscribe, help me out as well. And there are other things you can check out that I do. It's all down in the description, but don't worry too much about it. Just come on back next time you need a break. And credits. I got to shout out my top Patreon supporters, so thank you very much to Zubin Lutfullah, Tarak, Oliver B, Melinda Walters, Leotha Boyd, TT, Bernobulax the Poodle, Eidolon, Tracy Scrabbit, Vincent Paul Bartolucci, Angry Caspero, Adam Lefty Taylor, Shane Ross, Robin Moore, Shayla Gourlay, and Brendan LaRose. Couldn't do it without you.